Okay, welcome back everyone to the deep dive. We've got something really interesting to unpack today, something that I think could genuinely shift how you look at your own finances.
Yeah, definitely.
We're diving headfirst into this fascinating idea. It's all about how these, seemingly tiny financial actions, they're not just small details.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The source suggests they're actually powerful levers.
Yeah,
Levers for potentially massive change in your life.
exactly. And the source material we're digging into today is based on some notes, a text that you, our listener, actually shared with us.
That's right. And it's focused entirely on this concept it calls the power of small financial habits.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We're going to peel back the layers on this core idea, really try to get why the source says it works,
hmm
and then the crucial part, figure out how we can actually apply it in our own lives. But here's the key. We're sticking only to the insights from this specific material you gave us.
Yeah, no outside stuff. It's about extracting the wisdom from this text, understanding its logic, and seeing what it prompts us to do.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the hook. The core idea the source throws at us right away kind of challenges us, doesn't it?
It does. It basically asks, what if the real secret to changing your financial future isn't some, massive, scary budget overhaul?
Yeah, the kind that feels impossible to stick to, or, winning the lottery.
Right, or some big inheritance. What if instead it's something, well, almost ridiculously small?
Like the difference a single dollar can make each day. That's the provocative bit.
That's precisely where this source starts. It pushes back against the common idea that only huge decisions, buying a house, big investments, shape our financial destiny.
Right.
But this text, it argues that the real lasting strength of your financial life isn't built on those big, infrequent moves. It's built on the small, consistent daily habits.
And it uses that dollar example to make it super concrete, doesn't it? It asks you to imagine spending just one extra dollar on something you don't really need every single day.
Yeah, and our first reaction is usually, $1, so what? It's nothing.
Mm-hmm. That's what my brain says.
And according to the source, that's where we get tricked. Because, yeah, $1 feels tiny in the moment, but the act of spending it day after day,
Yeah.
that starts to compound. The text points out, if you keep up that habit, just one unnecessary dollar spent daily by the year's end, that habit has cost you $365.
Wow. Just gone. Poof.
Gone. $1 at a time. It adds up to a pretty significant leak, doesn't it?
$365. Yeah, when you put it like that, the cumulative effect is, well, undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
And then the source flips it. It asks the powerful opposite question. What if, instead of spending that extra dollar, you consciously saved it?
Yeah, the material makes it really clear. If you just flip that one tiny habit, consciously save that dollar each day, the result is just as powerful, but in reverse.
So instead of losing $365,
You have $365 at the end of the year. You've built that up, not through some massive sacrifice, but just by making that one tiny, consistent choice every day, almost effortlessly, in a way.
effortlessly accumulating. Okay,
Yeah.
that naturally leads us to the main principle the source is hitting on, right?
Exactly. It talks about the compound effect. The original text actually calls it soin-e, which basically translates to the principle of small changes.
The principle of small changes. I like that.
Yeah, it's the idea that these minor, almost invisible actions, when you do them consistently over time, they snowball. They accumulate into these surprisingly large results, both good and bad.
So the power isn't really in the single action itself.
No, it's in the repetition, the relentless consistency. That's where the magic or the danger lies.
Okay, but the source says it's more than just the math, right? More than just the dollars adding up or disappearing.
Absolutely. That's where it gets really interesting, I think. Well, the money changing hands is the visible part. The deeper impact, the real power, is what these small, consistent actions do to your mind.
Ah, okay, so it's psychological, not just arithmetic.
Totally. The source explains that when you do these small acts, consciously skipping that dollar purchase, putting it aside, making coffee at home instead of buying it, it's not just a financial thing. It's a behavior you're repeating. And what happens when you repeat behaviors?
They become habits. You start doing them without thinking.
Exactly. You build a habit. And the source really stresses this. Over time, these habits stop being things you have to force yourself to do. They integrate.
Integrate. How so?
They become part of your fundamental approach, part of your personality when it comes to money. You start seeing things differently. You naturally become more mindful of small costs, small opportunities, not because you're forcing it, but because you've actually reshaped your financial mindset through these tiny, consistent steps.
Wow. So it changes who you are financially, not just what you do.
That's the idea. It's about identity change, driven by small behavioral shifts.
Yeah, that's pretty profound. It suggests that change eventually feels natural, effortless, because it's just how you operate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so understanding the concept, why it works psychologically, that's crucial. But how does the source say we actually, do this? What are the practical steps?
Right, the how-to. The text lays out a pretty clear roadmap. It starts with step one, identify small expenses.
Okay, like being a detective.
Yeah, exactly. Become a detective for your own spending. The source urges you to look past the big bills, rent, mortgage, car payments, and really zoom in on those seemingly tiny costs, the ones that feel harmless on their own, but together they just drain your resources without you even noticing.
Look at the daily coffee. That's the classic example.
That's a big one. Or subscriptions you forgot about, maybe aren't using. Or even just, one or two impulse buys each week because, oh, it's only a few bucks.
The financial death by 1,000 cuts. Okay, got it. So once you've spotted these little leaks, what's next? Step two.
Step two is replace with constructive habits. And this is key. It's not just about cutting. It's about substituting.
Ah, okay. So instead of just stop doing X.
Right. The source is practical. Instead of just stop buying coffee, it suggests make coffee at home. Instead of ordering takeout because it's easy, maybe plan meals and cook one more time a week.
Mhm.
And it highlights this really powerful dual benefit here.
Which is?
Well, first, obviously, you'd save the money you would have spent. That's direct. But second, the act of choosing the more deliberate alternative, making the coffee, cooking the meal, gives you a sense of accomplishment.
Right, like ownership.
Exactly. Ownership over your resources, your time. You're not just saving, you're actively creating value in a sense. It feels good.
That definitely sounds less like deprivation and more like empowerment. Like you said, look what I did, not look what I missed out on.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. What about step three?
The final practical step the source recommends is simple, almost deceptively simple. But it says it's incredibly powerful. Track your progress.
Tracking. Okay, like a detailed budget spreadsheet.
Not necessarily. It suggests something much simpler. Just the act of noting down, maybe weekly, the savings you've made from these small changes.
Just jotting it down.
Yeah. The source explains that this conscious act of tracking does something important. It reinforces the positive behavior. Seeing the numbers grow, even if it's just a few dollars here and there, it gives you tangible proof that the compound effect is working. It conditions your brain, basically, to keep going. It makes the abstract principle visible.
Ah, turning that invisible power of compounding into something you can actually see. Okay, yeah, I can see how that would motivate you.
Definitely.
So we have the concept, the why, the how, but why does the source argue that this specific approach, these tiny habits, done consistently, tracked simply, why is that so effective? Especially compared to, those big drastic financial makeovers people try.
The material gives a few really compelling reasons. First, and maybe most importantly, it's fundamentally low pressure.
Low pressure how?
Well, think about it. Trying to slash your spending by, say, 50% overnight, that feels huge, overwhelming. Failure seems almost built in.
Yeah, totally daunting.
But making one small change, skipping one coffee, saving that $1, that feels doable.
Right.
It dramatically lowers the barrier to just getting started.
Right. You're not asking your brain to completely rewire itself on day one. Just do one tiny new thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And because these small changes are doable, the source points to the second big benefit. It builds confidence.
Okay. How did that work?
Every single time you succeed at one of these small habits, you resist the urge, you make the coffee, you write down the saving state. You're giving yourself proof. You're telling yourself, hey, I can do this. I do have some control.
Little wins.
Exactly. Repeated small wins.
Yeah.
You build this really solid sense of capability, and that fuels you to keep going, maybe tackle another small change. It creates a positive feedback loop.
I see. That makes sense. Low pressure builds confidence.
That's so.
What else?
And third, the source argues these gradual changes prevent backsliding. You know how when people make drastic changes like a crash diet?
Yeah, they often snap back pretty hard.
Right, those big shifts are fragile. The pull of old habits is strong. But because these small financial changes are integrated slowly, gradually, they become part of your routine. Eventually, part of your identity, like we talked about. They're just much more resilient. You're less likely to just abandon them when things get busy or your initial motivation dips. You're building a new foundation, brick by tiny brick.
Low pressure builds confidence, prevents backsliding. Okay, that really paints a picture of why this method is designed for the long haul. And the source links this back to the ultimate goal, too. It's not selling a get-rich-quick scheme, is it?
No, not at all. The text is very realistic. It frames the purpose here not as, becoming a millionaire by next Tuesday.
Right.
It's more about building financial habits with the kind of discipline and consistency you see in a professional athlete training.
Ah, like an athlete. Interesting analogy.
Yeah, it's about that dedicated, consistent practice of these small actions, day in, day out. You're training your financial muscles, preparing for a better, calmer, more secure financial life over the long term.
It's training your financial muscles. I like that. It emphasizes the practice, the consistency. It's not a sprint, it's marathon training.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've really unpacked the concept, the principle behind it, the psychology, the practical steps, and why this method works. But the source doesn't just leave us there with the theory, does it?
No, it shifts gears.
It pivots pretty directly from explanation to, well, a call to action, a challenge specifically for you, the listener, something you can do like right now, today.
Yeah, it moves from understanding to doing, framing it as a personal step you can take immediately.
It really does. It's basically saying, look, knowing this stuff is one thing, but actually acting on it, that's where the change happens. And it makes that first action incredibly simple.
Super simple, but potentially powerful.
And that really brings us towards the close of this deep dive into the material you shared. The core message seems crystal clear. Small habits, done consistently, they don't just add up linearly.
No, they compound. They create significant, often transformative change over time.
And right at the very end, the source issues that direct, actionable challenge straight to you listening right now.
It does. It urges you, take out a piece of paper or, open a note on your phone, whatever works.
And just do what?
Just list those small, unnecessary expenses you can spot in your own life. Those little leaks we talked about earlier. Get specific.
Okay, list them out. Then what?
Then it asks you to make a commitment. Not a huge one. Not eliminate all of these starting tomorrow. No, just choose one. Pick just one of those small things you listed and commit to eliminating that one thing starting right now, today.
And crucially.
And critically, save or redirect that money instead. Don't just let it disappear somewhere else. Consciously capture that saving.
And the source really emphasizes that this single, simple exercise, identifying one thing, deciding to act now, that's the starting pistol.
Exactly. It's the launch pad, the necessary first step that kicks off the whole powerful journey this source describes. It gets the ball rolling.
Yeah. And the final thought this material leaves us with, the real takeaway that ties it all together. What is that?
It's that the true power of this principle of small changes. It doesn't just lie in understanding the concept. It's not just knowing what to do.
It's in
the actual decision to begin. Knowledge is like the map, right? But it's a decision to take that first small step that actually starts the journey toward that financial transformation.
The decision to begin. Wow. That's a really compelling place to wrap things up, isn't it?
It really is. Puts the ball squarely in your court.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if diving into this source material with us today has sparked something for you, if it's been valuable, and you're interested in exploring other fascinating topics and sources with us in this deep dive format, then definitely make sure you subscribe to the Deep Dive channel right here on YouTube. We'd love to have you along for future explorations.
And thank you again for sharing this source material with us. We genuinely hope that unpacking it together has provided some clarity, maybe some motivation, and perhaps, just perhaps, the inspiration for you to make that crucial decision, that decision to start implementing the power of small habits in your own life starting today.
Absolutely. We wish you all the best as you take that first step, identify that one small change, and really start building that positive momentum with your financial habits. Thanks for tuning in.